Thanks for tuning in to the Marvel Movie Minute.
Want to skip those pesky ads and get early access?
Become a member at truestory.fm/join and discover all the other great perks that come with it.
Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a weekly podcast in which we assemble to explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 5 minutes at a time. In this, our 9th season, we're looking at Captain America, the Winter Soldier. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Matthew Fox.
And today we are talking about minutes 121 through 125, which begins with the fall of Steve and ends with a sad invitation for a group travel that no one wants to join.
I would go to Europe with Nick Fury.
I would go to Europe with Nick Fury.
Right?
This is ridiculous. What are these guys thinking? A bro trip to Europe with Fury?
You know, there might be some explosions, but I think we can deal with that.
Nobody's going. We can totally deal with that. And instead, there's secret plans that we don't know about yet. Things are going to happen. This is where this minute, or this set of minutes opens. One of the things that we've talked about in the past is the beautiful art of the fall of Steve. And this picks up right where that left off. We get to see where ultimately Steve lands in the Potomac, sort of.
Right. So what do we think is the plot significance? He has his first movie, he crashes into ice. Mm-hmm. His second movie, he crashes into water.
Yeah.
So if I remember my basic physics, I think the next state is air, right?
Gas.
So he's got to just crash into.
He just crashes through clouds. Yeah.
I guess I don't really know where. I don't know what the significance of that, but clearly aquatic landings are an important part of the Captain America story.
They're huge. You're absolutely right. I hadn't thought of that, but it is an interesting callback too, because the other thing that strikes me is that in the last movie, he wakes up at the end of the movie disoriented in a fake hotel or a fake hospital room, and he runs outside and he's in Times Square.
Right.
This movie, he wakes up disoriented and he's sitting next to Sam listening to Trouble Man.
Yeah.
That seems to be a nice sort of sentimental callback too. Both of these movies, Steve wakes up and now he's kind of at home.
Right. Yeah, I think it definitely is. And remembering that Captain America is going to be well taken care of at this point. Like, he's going to get a nice big private room. That tells me that Sam could have put himself on either side of that hospital bed. He intentionally chooses to be on the right so that Cap can wake up and say, on your left. So that's just kind of one more nice gesture by Sam.
I do love the fact that in my head now, Sam thought that far ahead. I can imagine Sam saying, wouldn't this be funny if his first words are on your left? I'm going to give him a shot.
So it calls forward a whole bunch further. Do you think it's possible that Doctor Strange is like, all right, Sam, you're going to be the first to go through. Mm-hmm. So, or at least you're going to be the first to tell him we're going through. So we're going to start opening up some portals. And Sam goes, no. We've got to come in on the left.
Yeah.
Like, is that a conversation that happened back? Do you think they shot that
somewhere
for Avengers? But it just didn't. Yeah.
I do. I believe it. I have to believe.
You know, you got to lean into the bit.
Before that, we have to talk montage. Right? Because Cap falls, he's in the water, and, explodey things all around. He's in the water. We go to black for kind of a long time. It's like 3 or 4 seconds, probably. Mm-hmm. And we fade up slowly. And who is dragging Cap to the shore? It's Bucky. And Bucky gets a moment where he gets to look at Cap and survey the surroundings and then walk away, having saved Steve and left him presumably drowned. He doesn't turn him on his side. I assume his lungs are full of water. That's okay. He's Captain America. He'll be able to cough it up. And then Bucky goes away.
I'm certain that if they had a moment of Bucky giving him mouth to mouth, that picture would not have found any misuse or been the basis of any theory anywhere on the internet. So we'll just assume that it happened.
We've already talked about, this is really a fascinating breakup of minutes, because the first minute, almost exactly 60 seconds, is Bucky saving Cap. The next minute is waking up on your left in the hospital room to Trouble Man. At 2 minutes, we begin full montage territory, and we get Sharon Carter in her CIA garb, actually doing target practice. We get Maria Hill, presumably she's in some sort of a polygraph situation at Stark Industries.
Right. Specifically the HR office.
Yeah.
So I think that to me is she is either in the last stages of personnel interviews, or she has been hired and now has to do some polygraph stuff. But either way, I think this is the opposite of the band getting back together. This is the thing that sets up the band has to get back together next time. It's the montage of, the theater is closed and everyone has to go their own way.
Yeah, we're at the reckoning sequence here. So in full on in minute 2. I do wonder though why Maria Hill has to interview anywhere. I mean, she's Maria Hill. They know her at Stark Industries. Give her a job.
Well, except remember, Tony isn't part of all of this.
That's true.
Tony has never trusted Fury.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And now he has seen that actually a lot of his fears about S.H.I.E.L.D. were true.
Yeah.
That a lot of his fears about Fury were true. He already is actually even angry at Fury because of Avengers 1 and all the stuff that came out there. And I think he's always, he's never seen Maria as anything but Fury's man and a Fury's woman. And so I think, to me, it would be perfectly fair to have some real questions of, are you here to be a spy for Fury? Are you here to try and turn Stark Industries into S.H.I.E.L.D. 2.0 or something like that? So to me, I think it is fairly deserved.
Okay. All right. Fair. I'll buy that. We cut from that to we've got Senator Stern, Gary Shandling, is coming in. He's on the phone and he's being interrupted by authorities. And those authorities are the FBI. FBI is taking him in, and this leads to the next sort of reckoning. Rumlow, we have a kind of a hard cut to emergency services. Rumlow is being wheeled around a gurney, and he is scarred.
Yep.
That now we start cross-cutting. We have 2 sequences happening at the same time. The first is Fury's shed. Fury's got some sort of a container,
right,
with a bunch of his goodies in it.
Which I was trying to remember. I don't think we've seen that before, have we?
No, I don't think we have.
Okay.
And this, I think, starts the legacy of Fury finding caches of goodies all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Because he does the same thing in Secret Wars. Once he's boots on the ground, literally, he starts finding stuff all over the place. Everything he needs is in some sort of a cache or a chest or something. It's very video game mechanic. In this case, he's got a bunch of Pelican cases and things with buttons on them. But we start cutting back and forth with a Senate hearing, an inquiry. And this is Natasha sitting before some sort of a committee.
Right.
Let's just get the Fury off the board part. He burns it down and walks away from all of his goodies. He actually symbolically puts the eye patch down and puts on his sunglasses, and then he lights a match, and he walks away. He literally burns it down. I don't know how much he's trying to get rid of, but he does get rid of his goodies in this particular cache. Certainly,
all the information, and it's funny because when we get to the Congress part, I'm going to have maybe some hot takes on that. But watching it this time, I'm a little frustrated because
why?
I want accountability. I don't want all of this happened because everything was being hidden and everything was secret. And now you've got Congress, and it is Congress, because not the Senate, because we know that the main person coming after Natasha is named Congressman Wurm. And I only know that because I looked him up. He's played by Stephen Culp, who West Wing fans will, if you recognize that voice being politically annoying, it's because he played GOP Speaker of the House Jeff Hafley for, I think, a season and a half on the West Wing. But I I don't know that the questions he's asking are wrong. Like I think the and we'll get into that in a sec. We'll get into that in a second. And the accusation the way he's coming on Natasha is problematic, obviously. But like to me, what happened here is that a secret organization got taken over in part because everything was so secret and so no one saw what was happening. And Nick Fury has been trying to say to the whole world, everyone should trust me. And that didn't work out well in Avengers. And now it hasn't worked out well here. And instead of there being some real accountability and a real attempt to say, let's shine sunlight, the best disinfectant on everything that happened here, Nick's just burning it all and kind of walking off into the sunset to be his own man and do his own thing. And I don't love it. I don't love it. And I'll grant it, it's a lot of it's because of what Natasha says later. And so it's kind of hard to separate those two. But I'll say that like it looks badass. He's got the hood. He does not look like Nick Fury. He looks like someone very different right now. It's a great look. It's a badass scene. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, no, this is just how we keep having the same problem over and over again.
Right. Yeah. Nick should be under, this particular investigation, right? Nick should be sitting in front of Congress right now. But again, everybody thinks he's dead. That would be a much bigger reveal. So in this way, Natasha is the public face of bad handling. Right. And she handles it poorly. If we then transition to with regard to your point specifically, we transition to the congressional hearing and she's sworn in. She's sitting there taking questions. The committee members are asking, how they're supposed to move forward. They're saying, how is this country expected to maintain its national security now that he, Captain Rogers, and you have laid waste to our intelligence apparatus? These questions imply a support for HYDRA as the intelligence apparatus. Right. So we have to square that the Congress people are still not completely able to internalize what had happened to the security apparatus.
So let's keep more secrets. Like that to me is the exact reason why you say, let's get everything out on the table. Yeah. Let's help you understand. Because, and again, you're kind of going through it. If the entire intelligence apparatus was just destroyed, then where is Sharon Carter? Because last
she's
I
at target
talked,
practice, right?
Wearing a shirt that says Central
CIA.
Intelligence Agency.
Yeah.
Last I checked, that is part of the intelligence apparatus. To me, and this is going to kind of presage a lot. And I think this is setting up an idea that I think they do a very good job of paying off and continuing to show. Like, look, this is what Natasha and Cap and the rest of them believe. And I think they do a very good job of it. I just think they're fundamentally wrong. And this not sure this is in a Civil War discussion, but to me, like when Tony says we need some kind of oversight, I think he's right. When he then says the oversight we need is Sokovia, he's clearly wrong and Cap is right. And that's where the conflict starts. But to me, when Natasha says, I know you don't like it, but you need us, you have to just trust us. That's exactly what S.H.I.E.L.D. was saying.
Yeah.
And S.H.I.E.L.D. needed oversight. And to me, Natasha is dead wrong in this. And I get where she's coming from, but that's also why Natasha shouldn't be the spokesman for this organization right now.
How did she end up as the face? And, when I say she handled it poorly, I think it's written, in such a way where she gets to have a public display and a political tantrum. Right. Her standing up and walking out is the tantrum. You know where to find me, thumbing her nose at Congress, which does continue to perpetuate the belief that they are and believe strongly they should be above the law, above oversight.
Right. And I get that. And that's always been there's always debates about whether comic books are fundamentally, liberal or conservative. I think this has been one of the most conservative ideas in comic books for a long time is that, one strong individual and his buddies, that they know best and they should do what's right. And everyone else should just stop their, willy wonking and I don't know if that's a word, but, stop their whinging and shut up and let them be heroes. And I hate that. It's just wrong. But I do think that's the point that the Russos are making. And I think that's And it's funny because I don't think I felt this way when I first watched this movie. I think it's in part getting the Civil War and also just how much the world has changed between now and
Right.
then.
Isn't that interesting? That context actually matters a whole lot when we're watching this movie.
And I admit, I thought I was going to be way off on a hot take island, but it seems you're mostly agreeing with me here.
Yeah, I think I am. I think I'm in a very similar place, and I surprised myself as much as you. I feel like there are the difference is there is what is politically and narratively right versus what is comic right, and nobody's wringing their hands over this as a comic book adaptation. But what does it represent? And it does represent something that I think is, if we take ourselves, and put ourselves in the universe of the real, suddenly it becomes harder to watch. And I think it becomes harder to watch because we've seen so much of it in the real so clearly since this movie was made.
The other part of this that, and I'm more being a little bit funny here, but I do think it's one sort of little hole in the writing. In every spy movie that's ever been made, when the enemy comes over and says, okay, I'll work with you, one of the things they say is, I need a signed letter from the president granting me a full pardon. I don't believe there is any world in which Natasha switches sides without getting that.
Yeah.
And so the idea, she's going to be ashamed, that she's going to be put through the public ringer, that she's going to be, made uncomfortable in public and maybe have to go into hiding or something. I believe all that. But the idea that she's in any way legally culpable for the stuff, Natasha's smart. There's no way she can get a full pardon.
Is there just speaking of the economy of character in this movie, is there somebody you think better equipped to have been sitting in this scenario than Natasha?
Yes, Captain America. I think he's a coward for not doing it. And it's funny, again, I didn't watch it, but I was so angry at him for not stepping up in this moment. Because he is the one who made the decision to tear it all down. I think you have to tear it all down. Yeah. But then to just leave the wreckage, her statement of, I think the wreckage in the pool is his statement. No, it's not.
Yeah, no. If anyone has a statement, Natasha has never once expressed any sort of ideology beyond finish the mission, do whatever it takes to finish the mission. And she obviously, I'm overstating because obviously that she's a part of S.H.I.E.L.D. is an expression of her renewed ideology to do good in the universe. Great. But she's not a press face, of S.H.I.E.L.D. She never has been a press face of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I don't know. I mean, that'll be interesting for Kyle to follow up on. What are you and I missing?
I think Maria Hill, and maybe that was why they needed to show Maria Hill going off to Stark, but I still think they still have subpoena power. I would 100% subpoenaed Maria Hill. And I think
I would have bought that, I think, better than Natasha. I think Maria Hill would have been a better voice than Natasha.
But I don't think Maria Hill would have given quite as much the FU. I think the line works because it's Natasha.
Yeah.
But I wish we could also, but again, that's the thing is, I want the congressional hearing. I want a whole movie of Tony and Cap sitting down in a boardroom discussing what Sokovia should look like.
You want the you can't handle the truth moment.
Yeah, I like the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can't have that with Cap because he's busy being sneaky at a gravesite. And so after this sequence in the courtroom where Natasha gives the FU to Congress, she stands up and leaves, and we head back to the grave. And the grave is Fury's grave.
Yep.
Any initial thoughts about the actual grave?
I have to remind myself that even though it was only maybe 15 years ago, the degree of the surveillance state that we live in today is not the same. I fundamentally do not believe a face is identifiable by search algorithms as Nick Fury. You could not pull off him going into hiding in this kind of way today. And I had to kind of remind myself that could work at this time.
Yeah.
Who's in that grave? I'm sure they have all sorts of human remains kind of lying around that they could fill it with.
Any particular note on the actual what's written on the grave?
I don't think I paid much attention, so no, I'm not sure what you're getting at. That is a nod right there, because what it does say on it, what does it say on it specifically? It's
The Path of the Righteous Man. It says Colonel Nicholas J. Fury and The Path of the Righteous Man from Ezekiel 25:17. That is Samuel Jackson's
Yeah, it's what he says
speech
in Pulp
from
Fiction.
Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. And that is one of our glorious Easter eggs if you find those kinds of jokes funny.
Yeah.
I admit it. I find that joke funny. I was glad to see it. And I think they should have picked Filled with Furious Anger, Ezekiel 25:17, but they did not. So it's what we have.
It is worth noting, it is not from Ezekiel 25:17.
Oh, no, absolutely not, because none of that was true in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, he is misquoting it.
Yes, it has been misquoted, and that was part of the joke in Pulp Fiction.
Right. And we do know that the Samuel L. Jackson cinematic universe does exist within the MCU because Tom Holland's Spider-Man has seen Star Wars movies.
Yes, for sure.
So putting that aside, I think it's a very appropriate quote if the filmmakers realize that he's wrong, but I don't think they do, because part of the point of it in Pulp Fiction, I think, is that, you know, the problem with the righteous man isn't that he's so often beset by all these things. It's that most of the time he's nowhere near as righteous as he thinks he is. And I think if there's any way I would describe Nick Fury, it's that he and Cap are both convinced that they are righteous men and therefore that they are above question. Yeah. And that how dare others question the way, you know, you mentioned, you made the reference to A Few Good Men, and I'm not going to quote that. You know, what Jack Nicklaus's character says is, you know, I don't want you to question the way I provide that blanket of freedom. I just wish you said thank you and went on your way. I have seen that movie more than once.
Yeah, right.
And I think I think Cap is a lot more righteous than Fury is. I think he is
which
a righteous
becomes
man,
the fabric of Civil War.
for sure. But I think that's the thing, is that you don't make a rule on the assumption that someone's righteous, because if Cap can do it, then Fury can, and maybe Cap is right, but Fury definitely is not.
I think you're making my case where it should have been like fueled by furious anger or vengeance, right? Yes. That should have been the quote, because that speaks more to what Fury's next chapter is than The Path of the Righteous Man. If you're going to misquote Pulp Fiction, misquote the best part of it. And what this says to me more than anything else is that they didn't think that deeply about the Easter egg.
Yeah. Well, no, they do. I mean, the quote from Samuel Jackson is Ezekiel 25:17. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish. So that quote is correct. It's just not, I think you're saying the best part of it.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I think the best part should be the part that describes Nick's fury. If you're going to put an Easter egg in, actually get the part of the quote that represents Nick Fury and what he represents to S.H.I.E.L.D., not this thing that clearly doesn't.
Which is, I think, doubly funny because the actual quote is from the Bible: I will execute great vengeance on them with furious rebukes, and they shall know that I am the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon them. Mm-hmm. Which also describes Nicholas J. Fury.
It totally describes Nick Fury. It totally does. So, okay, I'm going to give them credit. I'll give them 8 out of 10 for trying, because they actually indicate, like, they point loosely at an idea that represents Nick Fury. Right. If you read as closely into it as we did. That's fine. We then we actually get some scripted content between the boys. And this is the end. So you've experienced this sort of thing before, says Nick Fury as he walks up to see Sam and Steve standing at his own grave, at Nick's own grave. Steve says, you'll get used to it. This is where we get this is like the closing of the film. So we're kind of wrapping up. Here's what our characters are going to do next. Nick says they've been going through, I don't know who we is in this case. I guess he could be talking about Natasha. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maria is interviewing for jobs. Is she a we in this scenario? Anyway, Nick's point is a lot of rats didn't go down with the ship, and I'm going to Europe.
Right.
And wanted to ask if you guys would come. And both of these guys say no. Steve says there's something I've got to do first. Sam says I'm more of a soldier than a spy. We'll see, Sam. and that's it. That's it. What is he doing in Europe? Do you have any idea?
So if I'm right, Ultron is the next movie after we have this, and then Guardians, and then Ultron. And Ultron does open with them chasing down, I think it's Stryker and the heads of HYDRA as they now exist, who are in Europe.
Yeah.
So presumably he's going to start that part of the mission.
Yep.
But you kind of wonder, like, is it that he just does that and then he calls up Cap or some others and says, hey, let's get the band back together. Here I am. Like, that's never really been made clear in Ultron. And I think it also may connect to, because remember, this movie happens concurrently to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. may further answer that question, but it's been a decade since I saw it, so it'll hold me to that.
Yeah, right. Me too.
The part that throws me is Sam says, I'm not a spy, I'm a soldier. What is Cap about to go do? Cap is off to go be sneaky and try to track down this Winter Soldier and hopefully free him. How is that not spy work?
It seems like spy work. It seems like they're getting into some real James Bond stuff.
Yeah.
And we don't know what, because that's in the next set of 5 minutes. In this set of 5 minutes, Nick says, all right, then, sigh. Yeah. And they go about their business. And that makes the end of this 5 minutes. Does this make for a tidy end of the story of Captain America, the Winter Soldier? Do you feel like we're leading into something great, or is it ending on a bit of an anemic
No, I think this was a strong ending. I think, again, I'm finding that I disagree with the characters more than I did when I first saw it. It used to be that I was like, I love Cap in Winter Soldier, but for me, Civil War is where it starts to go wrong. And now I see much more of that same through line. But again, I think it's like, I can really enjoy a movie about something I disagree with.
For sure.
I think the movie A Time to Kill with Matthew McConaughey and Samuel Jackson is one of the greatest trial movies I've ever seen. It is fundamentally a legal defense of vigilantism, which I fundamentally disagree with.
Yes.
But I still think
we can hold two things in our minds at once.
It is a fantastically good and enjoyable and thought-provoking opinion that I disagree with. Yeah, and I kind of feel like this at the end. Like, I still think my feelings on Natasha and Cap don't change the fact that I greatly love the movie and I've enjoyed every minute of this. And yeah, this feels like a good wrapping up. It feels like this story is done. We have, the bureaucrat in me wants there to be more congressional investigation, but clearly there's not going to be. We're just going to wait until the next time government authority and the actions of the Avengers pop up against each other, which, don't worry, we're not going to have to wait long for that. And we're set up for, it feels it's a very kind of Empire Strikes Back kind of ending. Everyone's going off on their own ways, but no one's going to sit in the sun. This isn't they're going to go all have shawarma. Shawarma's great, by the way. But and Mayor Mamdami's made it easier to get it in New York City. Avengers like Mamdami. Anyway, so I just think it's great. I think this is it's a good coda, and I know there's a couple more minutes that are going to happen. I don't remember exactly what that's going to be, but I think we're in terms of, like, I think a lot of movies kind of miss the landing. Either it ends immediately after the big fight, or they just stretch on way too long after the big fight. This feels like a very satisfying wrapping up of S.H.I.E.L.D. is gone. All these people are going in different directions. Here's what's going to happen next.
I totally agree with that. And I think that's one of the most important bits to note is just how well the post-fight is paced. It puts everybody in a place ready to move on to some next thing, and it does it very efficiently. I will say the next 3 minutes, speaking of pacing, the next 3 sets that we have, and that's it. That's all we've got is 3 more episodes on this. The next one we get I'll spoil it for you. Our full post-credit sequence, and it doesn't stop in the middle. Like, we get the whole thing, and it's kind of juicy for us to talk about. So next week, we're going to talk about the first post-credit sequence, and this movie did drop a bit of a character bomb. And I think it'll be interesting, especially on the heels of talking about Spider-Man Brand New Day and its gloriously controversial post-credit sequence.
Yeah. And
So.
And I'll just say, I think, granted, I missed out on Avengers and a couple other movies, but when I was doing, even when you and I were doing Thor 2, one thing we talked about is, sort of, are we now far enough into the MCU that we should be talking about how it's doing its job as an MCU movie?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last couple minutes are always going to be one of the places where that question most comes up, because I think one of the things I judge an MCU movie based on is how well does it find the balance of making me feel like this chapter is done. Like, I don't feel like we're just stopping in the middle of the story. I feel like we have gotten to a satisfying end point, but that there's enough hanging that I'm excited for. I have a theory of what's going to happen next,
Mm-hmm.
And I think some movies do that better than others. Go listen to me talk about Brand New Day and how it relates to Doomsday on the Marvel Movie Minute. Not on the Marvel Movie Minute, on the film board.
Yep.
But
absolutely.
I think this does a very good job of, I'm excited to see what comes next. But I also wasn't like, I remember going to see Guardians of the Galaxy and I wasn't like, oh my God, but I need to know more about what happens at the end of Winter Soldier. It's, no, Winter Soldier's done. The threads are there for the next person to pick up.
We get some Avengers after that. It all happens as it should happen. And we were still looking forward to every next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. This has been great. We're going to close the book on 121 to 125 next week. We wrap up the last few lines of the movie and we start our credit run. And who knows what that's going to be like.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening. Make sure you head over to marvelmovieminute.com. It's not too late to sign up and subscribe and get early access to all the episodes. And we would love to have you over there. And also, don't forget to check out ethicalpanda.com for all the shows that Matthew puts on. And you can find me all just strewn about, peppered across truestory.fm. I'd love to have you check out more of our shows there.
There's a whole lattice work of Pete's work out there, including some great writing that I think I am promoting more in my show notes than Pete is promoting in his.
I have such a hard time doing it.
I know. So go to my show notes of anything, and you'll find a way to buy Pete's books and give me a couple bucks, and probably throw some money to Jeff Bezos and his yacht.
Everybody wins.
Yacht bucks. Everyone needs yacht bucks. So let's go, orcas.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the Marvel Movie Minute. I'm Pete Wright. We'll see you next week.
I'm a podcaster, not a spy.